All right. We're settling back for another fun 20, 30 minutes of conversation with me, Lance, and
Bonnie.
so, Bonnie, do you want to tell them the big news?
We are sitting amidst deconstruction and chaos.
And tell them why?
Our son had a doctor's appointment this week that ran overly long. And being an adult, he goes to the doctor by himself, but needs me to actually give him direction, so I have to go along. The area where the doctor's office is surrounded by little thrifts and secondhand stores. And I swear, I thought I was done with the thrift stores. And then he calls me and says there's more delays, more tests, etc. So I found myself at the Habitat Restore. My husband's always said that if you look long enough, you'll find what you're always looking for. I found 2 matching china hutches with glass front doors, hardwood, antique glass, the kind that has that wavy appearance in it, brass fixtures on them, doors in working order, hardwood shelves fixed in place, and under each hutch is a buffet stand that has 2 drawers that are subdivided into units, little sections where you keep your silverware, and under each of those 2 drawers in each buffet are 3 doors. Behind those doors is a recessed shelf halfway up. We ended up with 5 links of shelves to replace the 4 crappy units we've had for 25 years.
They're the kind you buy in a box and you put it together yourself. I hate them.
They were terrible. They were $30 each at the time. They're what most people call IKEA Billy bookshelves. They were white laminate. They looked like hell. And they sagged. None of the shelves were adjustable, but they sagged and they warped and they bent. And they really couldn't hold books. But these 2 matching china hutches fit in their place. They have longer length overall by a couple inches on each of the 5 lengths of shelves. They're about the same height. The 2 cabinets together are a couple inches longer than the other ones, so it fills up this wall beautifully. And in order to get to this point, Peter and I had to spend hours yesterday removing all the books, all the pottery, all the art, everything from the other shelves. Went and picked it up. Peter and Lance managed to get it in the house. This morning we put the doors on, and we have about a third of the books in place right now. And we are surrounded by books on tables on tables because we had to move things. We have books under tables, we have books on chairs, we have books on coffee tables, we have books under coffee tables, we have books on top of speakers.
Yeah, and getting this stuff out and just, sort of shift it around, you can see stuff that you haven't seen in a while, and you realize
Yeah.
all the stuff we have. We have a bunch of books on film criticism and film studies,
And plays, playwrights, and actual plays.
plays from around the world.
We have a thing here that's called the Great Sanskrit Plays. They're written 2,000 years ago. The majority of things are in the last 500 years, mind you. But we have Indonesian plays. We have all the classics of English, European theater, American theater. It's amazing.
We have a bunch of books on how to paint with watercolors.
Yeah, we got to find a special place for those because, that needs to be more, I don't know, near where we paint.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought you were hinting that you're going to seriously go for watercolors finally.
I've dabbled.
I've wanted to do watercolors for years, but I could never get it to do what I wanted to do. We got a bunch of collections of comics and painting books full of pictures of paintings.
We're very organized, but when you collect over a period of decades, you end up having to incorporate things into current collections. So those collections may not be as ordered as they should be. So yesterday when we removed things from the shelves, we made certain that art books were with art books, graphic art books were with graphic art books. Collections of literature were together. So it's been a good opportunity to not just see what all we own, but to make certain that the organization comes together. Because there were things that were mixed together. Because we just run out of space, and we didn't want to move the entirety of the shelf or shelves in order to accommodate one or two new books. So this is giving us a chance to organize everything.
Now, I don't know if it was the last episode, but we were estimating how many books were in my room. And
how many did you count? You had said
okay,
at one point, what, 1,000?
well, I said probably 1,000. I don't know what you said, but so I tried. I decided I was going to count. Okay, 1,965.
So almost twice what you thought you had in there.
Yeah.
I've been joking. I'm going to get him 35 more books to put in there to make it a cool 2,000.
Yeah. Oh, and so that can tell you right there how many books there must be in the house.
That's just your room, yeah. I've got hundreds in my room that have to do with modern historical fiction and ecology, anthropology, sociology, atheism, agnosticism, and gardening.
And most of the poetry's in your room.
I have most of the poetry, but not all of it. Because you have an enormous collection in yours as well. It would be nice to put them all together, but I like having that historical fiction in there.
Yeah, you got like Stephen Jay Gould and
Oh, that's in the science evolution section, yeah. The funny thing is I organized my atheism right next to it.
yeah. I had people online try to tell me he was actually a believer, but I don't buy it. He was what do you call it? A student of the history of church architecture or something like that, which is odd.
Oh, yeah, you and I are atheists, but if we had the money, we'd go and do a European grand cathedrals tour in a heartbeat. The art, is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking you could go alone around England and study all the different churches where the Catholic was eliminated or reduced after the change in the church became Anglican. Because there was stuff actually destroyed or converted, so to speak, for Protestant purposes.
Oh, now when we decided to do this episode, we consciously thought, well, books will be the theme. So I want to drag it back to that.
Okay.
And I want to ask you, right before we decided to do the episode, we were talking, and something you said made me wonder, how big a role did books play when you were small? And I mean a child.
Moved just enough that there were just a few select books that came with us. I was not much of a reader as a child. I did not become a big reader until after I left school. I always felt it was work when assigned books to read at class. It wasn't something I found enjoyable. Whereas our kids found many of their books enjoyable. My daughter went so far as to keep a lot of her history books. And our son, Jesus, you'd think he'd be a history teacher as much as he remembers about his history classes, but Reed is a history major. And Peter was introduced to all sorts of literature worldwide because he is an English major. but they'll both tell you that being forced to read was always unenjoyable at some level, while they found a lot of insight into some of the things. I think I felt similarly when I was at college, but now I read because I enjoy it. Though lately I haven't picked up a book in over a week.
Well, when I was little, I had a lot of children's books that I kept with me. And they got beaten up, and the kids destroyed them when they were little.
Well, when you were growing up, you guys moved one house down or one road over.
Yeah,
So it
but
wasn't as big of a deal as, say, moving from Europe to the U.S.
I had this stack of children's books that were important to me. They got me, into reading. And I'm trying to think. I read Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew stuff when I was little, and I read a couple of the Ben Bova Exiles books when I was in second or third grade. Though,
I remember you giving the Ben Bova series to me and Peter. He and I were both going through a period of exploring science fiction at that point. So your love of reading was passed down to both of us in a sense.
I'm glad we read to the children.
You in particular. I read to them when they were tiny. What did you do, Lance? Tell.
I read every day when they would get off the school bus. We'd sit on the sofa and I'd read something to them. And are you hinting at the Harry Potter series, or?
I'm saying you did some amazing things. I mean, you read Faulkner, which they made you quit because they were so repulsed by that one family. You read Old Man and the Sea by Hemingway. You started to read a Dickens, and something got you guys distracted. I think it may have been the Harry Potter series, which you read in voice, according to all of the movies, all the characters in the movies. But you never shied away. When you grabbed hold of a series, you would finish it. The Ramona books were some of the best ones to read.
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting there reading, listening to you read, and thinking, Ramona's mom is better than the mom I had. I need to be more like Ramona's mom. Because when I was sick, I was just left alone, fend for yourself. She was a bitch, what can I say? I'm mother. And so, I made a conscious decision to be more hands-on when the kids were sick after that, to make certain that they, had, as Ramona's mom did, the soup and the forehead and the checking the temperatures. And it was all that kind of stuff I'd done in part before, but I made this concerted effort to be like Ramona's mom. It was really strange how those books, all those books that you read, influenced me as well as the kids.
We had teachers who read us books too, and that's why I can't remember the name of the damn book.
The kids went to elementary school, where primary school, I guess it's K through 2, second grade, all the teachers were big into reading books to the kids. It was a big emphasis.
Well, when I was third grade, Where the Sidewalk Ends was such a big deal, and all the teachers had copies of it, and we had a teacher who would read poems out of it aloud to us. She also read this book about this boy who's lost his memory, who's found in the Appalachian Mountains, and this family takes him in for a while, and he's an alien. He has powers, and she would read to us a little bit every day, and I was sick and was out the day that she finished the book.
No.
So I go back to school, and I realized a couple of days have gone by, and I realized, I didn't get to hear the ending of the book. And I went and asked her, hey, that book that you were reading, how did it end? And she said, his people came and got him. That's all she said. But anyway, a couple of years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I found that book, and I checked it out from the library and read it for myself.
Was it any good?
It was a kid's book, like a young adult book,
Peter still has a lot of your old books in the playroom, in his den closet.
You mean the children's books?
Children's
Yeah,
books, yeah.
I know. I need to find
I
out.
think Kings of Bloom.
Yeah, I didn't have that as a kid.
You didn't?
No, I knew about it. I'd seen it
Oh.
at the library, so we found it at some sale and bought it.
Seems like it had beautiful illustrations in it, if I recall correctly.
Bizarre illustrations. Um, but I need to go in there and find out what books are missing, what books are torn to pieces, and I'd like to replace them.
Yeah, the kids had this. They shared this room at the old house, and the kitchen. It was right off the kitchen, and I would be in the kitchen making a meal or cleaning or whatever, and I could always hear the kids when they were playing. This is when they're like 1 and 3, and 2 and 4, and I would go in there and find this incredible chaos, and they could do it within 20 minutes flat. I don't know how many mattresses, top mattresses, even some box springs they went through, because they would pull the mattresses off their twin beds, push them off where they're sideways, so they could climb into the box spring and slide down off the main mattress. Well, it wasn't good enough for them to slide. They had to get back onto it. So they decided that they wanted stepping stones. And they put the books, your old books, down in the floor. And I caught them sliding and jumping from stone to stone, your books, to get back onto the mattress. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, pick up the books. And, I'd go in the next day. They'd do it again. No, you're tearing up the books. But they were so funny. The kids just loved playing with each other. Being 2 years apart, almost to the day, they were perfect playmates.
That old house was so tiny that
Yeah,
the kids' room,
1,000 square feet smaller.
the kids' room was part of an old construction. That's all only thing I can describe it.
They've been added on.
That had been added on.
That gave us a couple hundred square feet extra.
So, my mother paid for these people to move it up against our old house, and we cut a window out to make it into a door to access it.
Yeah.
Then we had to seal all that off, and that was never quite correct.
Yeah, but the kids had a porch off of that. And when Peter got old enough and Reed had just gone to kindergarten, he and I would sit off there, off the edge of the porch. You remember this?
Mm-hmm.
And I would get the, what is the brand? The brown bottle brand of root beer. And I go, okay, you want to get root beer? And he knew what beer was because we'd watched The Simpsons. And, excuse me, thought I had to sneeze. I may still. Excuse me.
All right.
So he had watched The Simpsons endlessly. So Homer was always having brown bottle beer. And so we would sit off the edge of the porch with a kick in our legs. He goes, I got a beer. I got a beer. I got a beer. Let's have a beer. It was so funny. Because he thought at the age of 3, this is what guys do.
Oh, he was a sweetheart. Oh my God.
Oh, those kids. I remember part of it. That room I built we had the window that we turned into a doorway. On one side of that was a changing table that it was already a thing that was built in. And then on the other side of the doorway, I created a closet so I could hang their clothes. And at the end of the closet, as you walked into through the door, there was a full-length bookshelf that I had made, and that was filled with their books. Absolutely filled. You went out of the way to...
Hey, our kid's home.
Oh, pause.
Um,
You had insisted that we get all the Dr. Seuss books, and my mother was always so negative about Dr. Seuss. Oh, it's so simplistic. We got them when Reed was...
Well, we had some left over from when I was a kid.
But we also ordered a whole new series.
And this is a typical example of the way things are. You compare my originals with the ones that we got, and the binding, even though mine is old and beat up from years of use, you can tell the binding is just 100 times better than the new stuff they make. This weird laminate they put on everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got them some books that I didn't have as a kid. When one of which is what is it? Is it 3 apples up on top or 4 apples up on top?
So many apples up on top.
Uh,
It was so cute.
that book.
And then Bird in the House.
Oh, in a
What
People
was-
House is
yes,
a
that was so
great
cute.
book.
But my mother had always been so disparaging. Dr. Seuss is so simplistic, blah, 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 blah. Well, when your kids are tiny little things, they like this repetition.
Mm-hmm.
They like the pattern, the cadence that comes with these things. And the inflection of your voice can change
I
the way that they
remember
enjoy these things
my
as well.
mother reading One Thumb, drumming on a drum.
Yes.
And I remember.
And you have to do the drumming on a drum.
Yeah, she did the whole thing, you
Yes.
know. But reading 4 apples up on top to the kids aloud was so much fun because I would do the voices, and when that tiger comes in and says, "See here, you two, I can do it too." It was so much fun to do that voice.
Well, I'm excited to have the new bookcase.
Yeah.
And I'll be even more excited if I can get all the damn books up and put it on the bookcase and get everything organized. It's a lot harder than you think because the shelves are fixed.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of art books,
know
so those are
what?
going beneath that are heavy and sideways.
Whoa, wait a minute. I just thought of something. This brings a new dimension to the question of what we can do with those big speakers over there.
Okay.
Because if we turn one sideways, it would go up on top over there now.
No, it's not. That's where the sculpture and pottery goes.
Okay.
Sorry, dear. And we're not going to have it bouncing off the glass and resonating and shaking the
Oh,
glass.
come now.
Look, if you don't close it properly, that glass rattles slightly.
Well, you're going to have to find some permanent solution for that. I don't know what.
Well, once it gets situated, but you don't want to have music blasting through and shaking that glass. It'll interfere with what you're listening to.
All right. Well, I guess that's about it for this episode.
Where do we stand? How many minutes?
22 minutes.
Long enough.
All right. Is that it?
Aye.
Okay. See you later.